This tutorial series is for IC2 Experimental, which is the current IC2 version being used on FTB Monster. What is up, guys? We are back with another tutorial series. This is going to be on the mod IndustrialCraft2. Now, this is the experimental version of IndustrialCraft2. However, we are going to be covering most things that should be fixed or added in future versions of IndustrialCraft as well. This is part 1, and so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you want to know about any mod that you put into your pack is world gen. IndustrialCraft adds 4 ores to your world. First you have copper ore, which spawns at Y levels 10 to 70. You have tin, which spawns at Y levels 0 to 40. Lead, which is at 0 to around 25. There's not really an exact number for lead, but generally found around those layers. And uranium ore can be found from 0 to 64. Now, another thing, quickly hop over the wall here, that you will find in World Gen is the rubber trees. Now, these rubber trees have a distinct feature on the top. They'll have these little points here. And so that's how you can easily tell if your tree that you see is a rubber tree or if it's just a regular oak or birch tree. Now, the reason you want these is for this little spot here. This is a resin spot. And resin is used for getting rubber. Now, the tool you're going to need to get the resin from the tree is a tree tap. And that's just 5 oak wood planks. So it's really cheap. You could do that early on. And then you have the tree tap in your inventory, and you right click once on the rubber wood with the resin spot, and you'll get 2 sticky resin. Now, you can see there's like a little bit of a leftover area here of where the resin was. That will grow back. However, if you were to, let's say on this one, which this tree had multiple rubber or resin spots on the tree, which is very possible. If you right click it and then right click it a bunch of times, it will disappear. Sometimes it will give you an extra amount, like that one right there, but then it disappears forever and it will never come back. Whereas if you just do it once, as you can see, this one's already regenerated, and you can keep doing that infinite amount of times. Now, a good way to farm this is to do what I did here, and that is to take all the leaves off and only leave the trunk. And then you can easily see the resin spots and farm them. Okay, now let's get into some basic craftable items that you're going to need to start off with Industrial Craft. So the first things first, you're going to need a forge hammer. This takes 5 iron and 2 sticks, so you will need to go mining before getting started with Industrial Craft, as most of its machines require some type of metal materials. Now, another recipe you're gonna want to know is forge hammer can be used on any ingots, copper, tin, iron, gold, lead, and bronze, and can be turned into iron plates. Now, the iron plates are going to be used for most machines, so that's a recipe you'll want to know. Another tool you're going to need is the cutter, which takes 3 iron plates and 2 iron ingots. And then you can then use the cutter on the plates, and you can get uninsulated cables. Now, uninsulated cables can give you an electric shock. However, it does not do this in the experimental version. So when they eventually upgrade the version in FTB, they should go back to giving you an electric shock. And high tiers of cables can kill you in one shock. Now, there's 5 tiers. There's tin, copper, gold, high voltage, and glass fiber. Now, there's also these item casings, which is a forge hammer on already plated material. So then you can use copper, tin, iron, gold, lead, and bronze to make casings just like the plates. Now, another thing you might want to note is there's an iron furnace added, which just takes a furnace and 5 iron plates. And you can see I have some sticky resin in here. It is 20% faster and 25% more fuel efficient than the normal furnace. It also does 10 items per coal/charcoal and 8 seconds per operation. So it's quick and more efficient. And this will also show us what to do with the sticky resin you got from the trees. Well, you smelt it in the early stages, and each sticky resin smelted will give you 1 rubber, which is a useful material in IndustrialCraft. And the reason you want rubber is because you can insulate your cables for 1. As you can see, you can put 1 rubber with a cable, and that will make an insulated copper cable. Now you can insulate copper, tin, gold, and high voltage. The glass fiber cables cannot be insulated, but they will not shock you as well. And different tiers of cables cost more rubber to insulate. Now another useful recipe to know is the RE battery. This is a mobile storage unit for the energy system in IndustrialCraft, which is EU. And we'll talk about EU in more in depth a little bit later on. But as you can see, it just takes some tin item casing, some redstone, and an insulated tin cable. Now another useful recipe is electronic circuit. And that just takes some copper cable, some redstone, and iron plate. You're also going to need basic machine casings when you get into machines. And that just takes 8 iron plates in a pattern like so. And advanced circuits are for the more advanced machines, but they're also not too bad. You'll have to have visited the Nether to get some glowstone. You'll need some redstone and also some lapis around an electronic circuit. Alright, so let's talk about energy. Energy in IC2 is called EU, or energy unit. Now, EU can be produced by various generators, stored in batteries, different mobile batteries, stored in stationary units that can be transported via cable and is used by other various machines. Also, EU, a tick is a term you might hear, EU/T, or energy unit per tick. Basically, that measures how much EU you're producing versus consuming over time. And EU a second, or EU/S, is basically, well, Minecraft runs at 20 ticks a second, so energy units per second is 20 times the energy units per tick. Now, machines and wires don't explode in IC2 experimental versions. That's important to note, because there's 6 types of voltage in IndustrialCraft. I'll quickly turn it to day. There's micro voltage, which is 5 energy units or below. Low, which is 6 to 32. Medium, 33 to 511. High, 512 to 2047. And extreme is 2048 to 8191, and ultra is anything higher. Now, machines can accept different voltages depending on the machine. Transformers can be used to lower the voltage. They can transform ultra into extreme voltage so that a machine can accept it. Now, as stated before, right now in experimental, wires and machines don't explode. Now, energy units per packet. This is a term that a lot of people can get confused in. Basically, everything that transfers EU does so in packets. A packet is an invisible energy container, and its size is measured in EU. Cables are limited by the size of the packets they receive. So as you saw back here, we have an insulated copper cable, which can receive 128 EUs a tick. Now it says EU a tick in the toolbar, but it actually means EU a packet. So the difference between EUs per packet and EUs energy units per tick means it's basically saying you can have an infinite amount of energy units per tick going through a cable, but each packet of energy can only be has to be less than the cable or machine can accept. And we'll go to an example of that in just a second. A cable can handle more EU a tick than it says this is because each machine produces a separate packet. So basically, two machines producing 20 energy units per tick each would produce a combined total of 40. However, each packet size is still 20. So it would not exceed the maximum for a tin cable, for instance, which is 32, or low voltage. So because each machine produces 20 EU packets, then the combined total of 40 EU does not matter because each packet is lower than the maximum EU traveling through a cable. And we'll quickly do a little example here. Here's a bat box, which is one of those stationary storage units that I was talking about, and two geothermal generators, which each produce 20 EU per tick. Now these run on lava, and we'll talk about more about these later. However, you can see that these are doing a combined total of 40 through an insulated tin cable, which max is 32. So even though this is experimental version, which doesn't explode, it should explode in normal versions. So it doesn't, however, because this is producing a 20 packet and this is producing a 20 packet, and because they're separate packets at a time, it's not a total packet, which means that these can accept it. So basically, you can have an infinite amount of geothermal generators connected to one cable, and it would not explode, because this cable each can take as many packets as it needs, as long as an individual packet does not exceed the maximum it can handle. Alright, so that's about as much as in-depth as EU can be told, I guess. Now, another thing you want to know about is you want bronze. Bronze can be made by copper dust and tin dust, and you can get that through a machine that we'll talk about a little bit later. Another thing is you need a wrench, which is a really important tool, which is used with bronze ingots. Now, you just have to smelt this dust to get the ingots, and you can put them in this pattern here to get a wrench. That is the IndustrialCraft way to manipulate all the machines and stuff in IC2. So you saw a bat box over there. We're going to talk about the 4 different tiers of stationary storage. First tier is the bat box, which is a low voltage. Now it's got a 40,000 EU capacity, and it outputs low voltage, so 32 EU per tick. And it's crafted with oak planks, or any planks, 3 RE batteries, and an insulated tin cable. Now, the next tier is medium voltage, which means it can output 128 EU per tick, and its capacity is 300,000 EU, as you can see. And that's crafted using 5 bronze plates and an advanced RE battery, which the advanced RE battery is just some item casings and some dust, and sulfur is something we'll talk about a little bit later on how to get, and some copper cables with another copper cable on the top. High voltage is the next one, which is 512 EU output. Capacity is 4 million EU, and it's crafted with energy crystals, insulated gold cable, and a basic machine casing. Extreme voltage is 2048 EU per tick output, as well as a 40 million EU capacity, and it's made with 6 Lapotron crystals, an advanced machine casing, an MFE, and an advanced circuit. Now, the RE battery, talked about before, this is the first tier of energy capacity, or mobile storage, energy storage, and it has a 10,000 EU capacity. Now, the second tier is an energy crystal, which has a 1 million EU capacity, and you basically have to make this recipe from 4 diamond dust, which requires 1 diamond each, and 5 redstone. You get 9 energium dust, which you then put into a compressor, which is a machine we'll talk about a little bit later. And that will make you the energy crystal, which is used in this recipe here. The third and final tier of the mobile storage units are Laptron crystal. Now, the capacity for this is 10 million EU each, and that just takes some dust of lapis lazuli, 2 advanced circuits, and an energy crystal. So now let's talk about the different tiers of cables and what they can do. First is the tin cable. Now, that can transfer 32 EU a packet, as we talked about before, as a maximum. Energy loss is 1 EU for every 40 blocks, which means every 40 blocks of cables that you lay, it will then lose 1 EU at that 40 block mark. Copper is medium voltage, which means it can handle 128 EU a packet, but it does have an energy loss of 1 EU every 5 blocks. So copper is good, except for that it needs to be close by. It cannot transfer over long distances without a significant energy loss. Gold has high voltage transfer, which means it can do 512 EU a packet. However, it's even worse than copper in its energy loss, with 2.5 blocks for every EU loss. High voltage cable, as you can see, it's a lot bigger than the other ones because it takes a lot of rubber to insulate. Can transfer 2048 EU a packet, and it is even worse than gold in having a 1.25 EU loss for every 1.25 blocks. Now, glass fiber is the best overall cable. As you can see, it looks like this. And it has an ultra voltage, which means it can transfer 8,192 and up. And its energy loss is 1 EU every 40 blocks, which is the same as the tin. However, it can handle a lot more energy than the tin can. Okay, so now that you know a lot about EU and how the energy units per packet work and energy units per tick, we're going to talk about some transformers. They have the low voltage transformer, the medium voltage transformer, high voltage, and extreme voltage. Now, low voltage is crafted like this: oak wood, coil, and insulated tin cables. Coil is made by uninsulated copper cable and an iron ingot. And the medium voltage is just a basic machine casing and 2 copper cables. The high voltage is an advanced RE battery, a medium voltage transformer, an electronic circuit, and 2 insulated gold cables. And the extreme voltage is a Laptron crystal, a high voltage, an advanced circuit, 2 insulated high voltage cables. Now, the way these work is they can break down other voltages into their lower voltage counterpart. So basically, we have a CESU here, which, as we know, outputs 128 EU per tick. Now you can see it's got a bunch of energy stored in it right now. And let me quickly make it daytime. And you can see I have a glass fiber cable connecting to an LV transformer. Now you can see that they all have this 5-dot side. And they also have a single dot side on every other side. So they have one 5-dot side and the rest of the sides are 1 dot. So the input of the higher voltage goes in the 5-dot side, and the output comes out all the 1-dot sides. Now what this means is that you can put in 128 EU per packet into this low voltage transformer, and it will turn one 128 EU packet into 4 or 5 32 EU packets, and it will send them each down the lines as it needs, depending on what it's connected to. Now, another thing to note is that it can use cables connected to the side, or the machines can be directly connected to the 1-dot sides as well. Now, if you were using a higher voltage one, like say you were using high voltage, you would input high voltage and it would output medium voltage. And so you are able to run, say, a macerator, which is a machine that we'll be talking about, that accepts low voltage, because this medium voltage output is then turned into low voltage packets. Now you're still getting the same amount of energy, because it's 128 EU, but it's turned into multiple 32 EU packets. So it does not explode the machines. Now, machines and cables don't explode in IC2 Experimental, but eventually they'll be updated to where it does, and so you need to know this for future versions. Alright, so now we're going to talk about a couple ways to generate EU in the beginning through some various machines added by IndustrialCraft. First one being the generator. Now the generator is the cheapest starting machine here, which is this guy right here. And the generator produces 10 EU per tick, or per packet as well. It burns various fuels. Each fuel type burns for a certain amount of time. And regardless of the fuel type, the generator always produces 10 EU per tick. However, fuels burning for a longer amount of time will burn, or will produce a higher total amount of EU. It also has a buffer, internal buffer, of 4,000 EU that it can hold before starting to waste whatever it's burning. Now, the fuel types are reed, cactus, rubber sapling, other sapling, sticks, logs, planks, scrap, coal, and charcoal. You can see all these items in this chest, except for coal, because I was going to put coal in there. Alright, and you can see we have 120 for reed cactus, 200 for rubber saplings, 250 for saplings and sticks, 750 for logs and planks, 870 for scrap, and 4,000 total EU for coal and charcoal. As you can see, we put that in there, and it is going to start producing EU into these bat boxes, which already had a little bit of energy in them, but you can see it is doing that evenly. And just to show you that it can be connected directly to the generator or through a cable. Now, the next machine is a windmill. Now, this is the windmill right here. It looks like this, and let's quickly turn it to day. The windmill produces anywhere between 0 and 5 EU. Now, the higher the windmill is, the more EU a tick it will produce. Windmills below Y64 won't work at all, and windmill's efficiency can be hindered by any block placed in a 9x9x7 area around it, which I have outlined with gold blocks here. So any block placed in this area will hinder the production of the windmill. Now this is a generator, and we'll talk about why it's that in a second. Regardless, you'll have to have 2 cables at least connecting to the windmill, otherwise it won't be able to output any energy anyway. So you'll automatically have to have 2 blocks at least hindering the output of the windmill, but 2 blocks isn't going to hinder it very much. Now, the general calculation I could find for how much EU is produced in a day is 480 times the height minus 64. So that would be the calculation. Ours is at 256, so it'll be somewhere around 90,000 EU per day, I do believe. Now, thunderstorms are 50%, make the windmill produce 50% more EU per tick, and rain is 20%. So rain without a thunderstorm, 20%, thunderstorm is 50%. If you have a thunderstorm which has rain in it, it doesn't mean it's going to produce 70% more. Now, if the windmill's output exceeds 5 EU per tick via a thunderstorm, it might stop producing energy and possibly turn into a generator, which is what happened to this windmill while I was setting the rest of this place up. Alright, and the windmill is made with 4 iron ingots and a generator. You can see it's already maxed out this bat box, which is pretty nice. Now, we have, this is the third low tier energy producer, and this is the water mill. Now, the water mill has 2 modes of operation. The first is manned, which means the water mill is filled manually with water buckets or water cells. Now, unmanned, second mode, which means the water mill is submerged in water. So this is an unmanned water mill, and you want to have source blocks completely surrounding the water mill, and it will generate 2 EU per tick and output that to a bat box. Obviously you're going to have a cable here, not water, otherwise it won't generate anything, or it won't put it anywhere anyway. Now the output for the water mill is manned is 1 water bucket means 1 EU a tick and 500 EU total per bucket. Water cells are 2 EU per tick and 1000 EU per cell. Unmanned is 0.010 EU a tick per block of adjacent water. Its maximum output, which is this one right here, it is 0.25 EU per tick, which is obviously I can't remember how much it is per second, but that's basically 20 times 0.25 is how much it's going to produce a second. Now, the water mill is made with sticks and planks around a generator. That makes 2 water mills. I'm going to quickly show you the manned version of a water mill. You could put it in there like this. You'll have this little icon here showing a bucket getting filled, and it will bring in using that and putting it into a bat box. You could also use water cells. However, note that the bucket you can reuse and the water cells you cannot. And the cells are do require tin to create, so the water bucket is a more efficient version as far as resources. Now we're going to talk about some basic machines. So you can see there's quite a bit of machines just on the basic tier of industrial craft to talk about. The first one is you're going to want to have a macerator. Now a macerator grinds items and blocks. Ores, it can grind to make 2 dusts, which can be smelted into 2 ingots. So basically, if you have 1 ore, you put it into a macerator. You can see it is using power, which is coming from this bat box and generator, and it will output for each ore 2 dusts. Now it takes a while right here, but you can use upgrades to speed it up, which we'll talk about in a little bit. As you can see, once it finishes, or you get 2 crushed iron ore, which can be, each one of those can be smelted into an ingot, so it's basically doubling the amount of ingots you get from ores. Now let's quickly turn this off so it's not doing that in my face. So all the other things you can do is cobble into sand and gravel into flint. So it increases the yield of various other items like bone meal and blaze powder. So you can macerate a bone and it makes 5 bone meal instead of 3 via crafting. You can do sandstone into sand, coal into coal dust, clay into clay dust, and ingots into 1 dust. So you can smelt an ingot and turn it back into a dust, or macerate an ingot and turn it back into a dust. The minimum power for the macerator it requires is 2 EU per tick. It can't have more than 32 EU a packet, and with all other machines it will not explode in experimental version of IC2. Its internal energy storage is 1600 EU, and it consumes 625 EU per operation. And the minimum power will run the macerator continuously. Now, here is a how to craft a macerator. 3 flint, some cobble, an electronic circuit, and a basic machine casing. The next machine you're going to want is the electric furnace, which is 12.5% faster than the iron furnace we talked about earlier. It uses EU instead of fuel, and doesn't waste fuel because it will stop using EU when it is done. It takes a minimum power of 3 EU per tick, and the same maximum power of low voltage, 32 EU per packet. It won't explode. Its furnace, it consumes 290 EU per operation, and the minimum power will run it continuously. It also has an internal storage of 780 EU. And you can see I've got another simple setup here. And we'll show you we got some of that crushed iron ore that we would have got from our macerators. and you can see it is quickly smelting that into iron ingots. And it is made with 2 redstone, an iron furnace, and electronic circuit. Next machine you're going to want is going to help you with your rubber. Now, this is an extractor, and it is used to extract rubber from sticky resin, rubber saplings, or rubber wood. Now, it's 3 times more efficient than smelting. So basically, put this in here. It has a minimum power of 2 EU per tick, maximum power of low voltage, won't explode, and its internal energy storage is 1600 EU. It consumes 313 EU per operation, and the minimum power will run it continuously. Now, as you can see, each sticky resin, instead of smelting giving 1, it gives 3 rubber instead. And you can also do that with rubber tree saplings and rubber wood. However, they won't give the same amount of rubber, which will quickly grab something to make it go faster. If I can find it here. Oh, that was too much. So it just does 1 for those, I do believe. And I'm pretty sure it's 1 for the rubber wood as well. Yep. So you get 3 from your sticky resin and 1 from your sticky rubber saplings and rubber wood. Now the next machine to check out is the metal former. Now it has 3 different modes: rolling, cutting, and extruding. The rolling works just like a hammer. Cutting works just like a cutter, which is the tools that you had at the start. And extruding can make wire straight from ingots instead of having to do that from plates. It can also create cells, which are from tin, and it's just basically an automatic form of all the tools. Its minimum power is 10 EU per tick, maximum is 32 EU per tick, or 32 EU a packet. Has a 4000 EU energy storage. Don't really know the EU per operation, couldn't find it on any of the wikis either. 10 EU per tick will run the metal former continuously, and it will not explode. So as you can see, here's a cutting mode, here's the extruding mode, and there's the rolling mode. Now it's made as so: electronic circuit, 3 coils, a basic machine casing, and 2 toolboxes. And we will quickly go to the rolling mode. You can see it kind of fills up the toolbox icons as its progress bar. And this will basically automatically just make plates from ingots. You also do cutting, which you can put plates in for. And that will make wires. And then extruding, you can also get wires straight from ingots using the extruding mode. And also in extruding mode, you can use tin plates to get cells, which are useful for carrying various liquids. And 1 tin plate will give you 3 empty cells, which is a good yield, in my opinion. Now the next machine you're going to want is the compressor. Now the compressor is used to create some advanced crafting components. It can also compress various items. You can get a coal chunk and compress it into a diamond. Now a coal chunk is really expensive, takes an absolute ton of coal to make. However, if you're low on diamonds and have tons of coal, charcoal will not work, has to be coal. Then you can use this recipe. Snow blocks you can compress into ice, and sand into sandstone. And various bio items can be compressed into plants. Has a minimum power of 2 EU per tick, maximum power of 32 EU per packet. Won't explode, and its internal energy storage is 1600 EU. It consumes 625 EU per operation, and the minimum power will run it continuously. It is made with 6 stone, basic machine casing, and electronic circuit. Now, here is the coal chunk here. which is made from obsidian, and a bunch of these, which is made from compressing coal balls, which is a bunch of coal. And 1 second, guys. Sorry about that, guys. Had a quick coughing fit there, as I do have some allergies right now. However, you can see the coal chunk did turn into a diamond when compressed. And another thing the compressor can make is advanced alloy and carbon plates. Now, this is made from compressing mixed metal ingot, which is used by crafting iron plates, bronze plates, and tin plates in the pattern like so. It can also be used to craft the carbon plate, which is a raw carbon mesh, which is raw carbon fiber, which is made from coal dust. And those are advanced crafting materials that are used in some advanced machines. Alright, next machine you're going to want is the recycler. Now, the recycler recycles blocks and items, obviously, and it turns them into useful scrap. Now, there's a 12.5% or a 1 in 8 chance to produce 1 scrap from an item. So each operation takes 2.25 seconds, and 4 blocks / items from vanilla can't be recycled. Now, other items from different mods might not be able to be recycled. However, these items from vanilla and IC2 cannot be recycled. That would be glass panes, sticks, snowballs, and scaffolding. Now, you can't recycle cobblestone, which its minimum power is 1 EU per tick. Maximum power is low voltage, 1 explode. Its internal energy storage is 90 EU, so not very much. It consumes 45 EU per operation, and 1 EU a tick will run the recycler continuously. So let's go ahead and put some cobble in here. You can see it runs really fast, and occasionally, it deletes the item basically, and you have a 12.5% chance to get a scrap out of the recycling. So you can see we're getting pretty bad luck here, not getting a single scrap yet. But you will get scrap like this right here. And this is used for a bunch of different things. One of them is you can put it in a generator, as we saw before. But it's also used for speeding up a process to get a really, really helpful material that we'll be talking about later on. The recycler is made with a glowstone dust, 3 dirt, 2 iron ingots, and a compressor. So the last low-tier machine is the canning machine. Now, the canning machine has 4 different modes. Canning, which will fill the tin cans with food to create canned food. Cell to tank fills the right tank with fluid from the bucket or cell. Tank to cell will fill the bucket or cell with fluid from the left tank. Fluid enriches item in center slot with fluid in left tank. Now, that might be a little bit confusing, and so is the interface, kind of. So you see you have a left and right tank. You have 2 different slots for items. This one is an output slot. This one is an input, and this one is a fluid enrichment mode slot. You can see we have fluid enrichment mode enabled, and if we change that to canning, and drain from cell into tank, or fill cell from tank. You can see the lines will change, so drain from the cell you put here, put that into the right tank, fill the cell that you put here, or bucket, from the left tank, or doing canning and fluid enrich. So let's put it to canning, and let's grab a tin can and some steak. Now you put the steak in the middle for canning mode, and the tin cans on the left, and the right will be your output of a filled tin can. And that is a food source that you can then eat. And then we'll go ahead and show the drain from cell into tank. So you can see I have a water cell here, and that will put that into the right tank. Now, to get things into the left tank, you might be wondering how to do that. You're going to need a pump, which is another machine from IC2. And you got to make it pump fluid directly into the canning machine, and it will go into the left tank. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, minimum power is 1 EU per tick. Maximum is still low voltage. It will not explode. an experimental version. Its internal energy storage is 1600. The canning machine consumes 35 EU per operation. 1 EU a tick will run it continuously, and the fluid ejector upgrade can be used to fill the left tank with a pump. Now it is made with tin item casings, a basic machine casing, and electronic circuit. Alright, so the last thing to talk about in this part is upgrades. Now you saw I put some upgrades in the macerator to speed it up. That was an overclocker upgrade. Now there's 5 different upgrades to put in machines, and the overclockers decrease operation time to 70% of previous value, and it also increases the power consumption by 60%. They can stack, however machine cannot exceed 1 operation per tick, or 20 operations per second, basically. So a maximum speed benefits for the macerator, extractor, and compressor would be 16 overclockers. Otherwise, any more and it will not run at all anymore. The electric furnace is 13 and the recycler is 10. So that's the maximum speed benefits. So putting any more in that is useless. The overclockers are made with 3 10K coolant cells, 2 copper cables, and an electronic circuit. Now, the 10K coolant cell is just made with some tin plates around a water cell, as you can see right here. That makes 1 10K coolant cell, and those do not stack, so it can be a little bit annoying trying to craft these overclockers, but that is okay. Now, the next one is the energy storage upgrade, which increases the machine's internal power, internal energy storage. So you can see that this one had an energy storage of 1600 EU, and it increases the storage by 10,000 EU each. And it appears my guinea pigs are squealing for some food, but that is okay. So this is useful when a machine's energy consumption becomes too large for its internal storage to handle. This happens when high numbers of overclockers are being used. So you're probably going to need to balance out some energy storage upgrades and some overclockers, and you're going to put those in the left or the right slots over here. So you can have 4 different unique upgrades, and you can stack them on top of each other, as many as you want for each unique upgrade. Okay, so those are made with just some wood planks, some electronic circuit, an RE battery, and 2 copper cables. Now the transformer upgrade is just basically used to increase a machine's voltage tier. So 1 will increase it to 512, and 2 will increase it to anywhere above. So the maximum you need is 2 for any machine. And those are created with glass and electronic circuit, 2 insulated gold cables, and an MV transformer. So basically that just means that if I put 2 in here, it can accept, instead of only being accepted low voltage from a bat box, it can accept any voltage. Now the ejector upgrade automatically moves the finished products to a nearby inventory. You can choose which side it ejects to by sneaking and right-clicking on the appropriate side of any block in the world. I'll quickly turn it back to day. Now, this is made with a piston, 2 pistons, a hopper, electronic circuit, and 2 copper cables. Now if we grab this, you can see this is the default look of the ejector upgrade. However, say we want the extractor to eject to the right. Well, to set that we need to sneak or hold shift and right click on the right side of any block in the world. And we can put that in there. You can see it automatically outputted it into the crafting station because this counts as an inventory. So automatically output it to the east side. It runs off north, south, east, west version, which you can see by pressing F3. You can see that is east, north, west, south. And so you can set it by doing that. You can also do up, set it to output to the top or the bottom as well, and it will do so. Now the last upgrade is the fluid ejector upgrade, which works the same way as the ejector upgrade but for fluids. Now it's just made with electric motor and 4 tin plates. This is made with some coils, some iron, and some tinium casings. And it works the exact same way as the item ejector upgrade. Now, the fluid ejector or any ejector upgrade automatically, when set to its default format, automatically outputs to the first valid side. So it just will automatically output to some inventory around it. And that is going to be it for the first part of this tutorial, guys. I hope you enjoyed. In the next episode, we'll be starting to do some more advanced stuff, like getting some more advanced ways to generate EU, as well as starting in some advanced ore processing. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like. It helps out a lot, and this took quite a while to make. And if this tutorial did help you in any way, shape, or form, please leave a comment if you have any questions, or leave a like. And remember to subscribe to my channel to be notified when I upload more tutorials like this. We'll see you guys next time.